Time flies, time waits for no one. Lost time is never found again. Lots has been said about time over the years. And about 200 years ago, time was pretty relative. I mean, it still kind of is now, but back then it was in much smaller increments. Prior to 1883, the North American time zones we know today didn't exist, meaning time was all over the place. And it was on this day, at noon, that you could time travel in the state of Idaho. In the early 1880s, there were anywhere from 40 to more than 140 local times across North America, all of them dictated by the position of the sun. Straight overhead, well, that was high noon. Except high noon in Salt Lake City wasn't exactly the same as high noon in Boise. That solar time meant confusion for travelers, especially on the railroads. 56 standards of time are now employed by the various railroads of the country in preparing their schedules of running times, reported the front page of the New York Times on April 19, 1883. So in order to avoid the annoyances, later that year, the leaders of the locomotives got together for the General Railroad Time Convention in Chicago. Coordinating consistent time seems about as fun as it sounds, but they did leave that October 1883 meeting with an idea. Let's divide the country into 4 time zones: the Eastern, the Central, the Mountain, and the Pacific, each an hour apart from the one next door. That time standard would begin a little more than a month later, at noon on November 18, 1883. And for the first few decades, it looked like this, separated by already established norms, economics, and the landscape, like the Mountain Time Zone, pretty much along the Rocky Mountains. Then Congress made time zones mandatory with the passage of the Standard Time Act of 1918, which put the Panhandle part of Idaho in the Pacific Time Zone, a separation that runs along the Salmon River just north of Riggins. Why there? Well, it has to do with commerce and the closest major economic area. For North Idaho, that would be the port of Lewiston and westward. For southern Idaho, Salt Lake City to the southeast, making Idaho one of 12 states split into 2 time zones. Okay, so you may have noticed on that time zone map, you might be wondering why that southeastern portion of Oregon is included in the Mountain Time Zone. Well, again, that has to do with location and commerce. The closest big city would be Boise, which happens to be in the Mountain Time Zone. You know, there was a 5th time zone included in the Calder Act, the Alaska time zone established with the Standard Time Act in 1918, and so was daylight saving time to save energy during World War I. Well, that part of the law was repealed a year later. A lot of people think it should be again, but after being reestablished with the Uniform Time Act of 1966, well, it would take the Secretary of Transportation and an act of Congress to change it.